first is Beast, because he has been very active lately and making even his own dedicated fans jump ship. It all started when Beast was appointed head of Krakoa's intelligence service, and at first he was the mutant for the job. However, he lost the plot pretty quick, started doing the protect by any means necessary thing, and that never ends well. Pretty soon, Beast was responsible for the downfall of a country, the downfall of Wolverine's mental state, and the destruction of a UN submarine with people on it. That's not even everything. His final big act was building a black hole gun for the purpose of sucking Arakko into a cosmic vault for safekeeping. He was stopped and sent into said vault. Beast must have passed the point of no return because Marvel didn't even give the character a redemption arc. They just got a clone of Beast, put his memories up to before he started acting bad, and bam! New, old Beast that everyone can now like again. Next is the 2015 failed Fantastic Four reboot that really could not have gone worse. Today we are haters together and I think that's beautiful. Fantastic Four 2015 is sitting at a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Lots of people hate the reboot because it was just worse than the original. If you are going to reboot something, you have to minimum make it better than the original version. That should be common practice, and yet here we are. I will admit that I saw this in theaters and I thought the movie was fine, mainly because it had Miles Teller in it, and it wasn't until I watched parts of it again later that I realized it does deserve that 9%. Across the board, reviews for the movie say that the characterization was weak and the story was boring. There are also claims that because the director had a falling out with the studio, the movie had a bunch of reshoots that made it feel less cohesive. It was a mess, and people are hoping that the upcoming reboot Marvel is planning will be better. One of the worst comics to ever come from Marvel has to be the ridiculous Marvel, that's Marville, series from 2002. It was part of the You Decide campaign, a public contest, or many think publicity stunt. The contest put 3 Marvel comics against each other. Of the 3, Marville was the worst for sure. It's a satire about Marvel and DC Comics, but the writing is just bad. Marville follows Kal AOL, who gets sent back in time by his parents to save him from the meteor strike of 5002. Only the world didn't get destroyed, so his parents sent the time machine to him so he could come back. Marville doesn't go home. He goes to the dawn of time to meet God, but what makes everything hilarious is that the last issue was a submission guideline book that contained tips for writing a good comic. I wish I had that level of confidence. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, specifically in the Wolverine origin movie. Hopefully I didn't scare y'all too bad for a second there. Obviously the Deadpool Ryan Reynolds movies are great. His portrayal of Deadpool is incredibly spot on. However, his first on-screen appearance as the character proved to be a dumpster fire. Even though he knew this version of Deadpool was going to be a miss, studio execs apparently told the actor to play Deadpool as the character was, or they would find someone else. Reynolds finished the movie, it was hated, like he said would happen, and then he was able to push for the Deadpool R-rated movies we are thankful for today. Some people think the origin version of Deadpool was so bad they should have just made Reynolds not Deadpool and made him some other original character. He pretty much already was. 2011 Stan Lee NHL partnership had the potential to be super cool, but then flopped like the Toronto Maple Leafs do every year. Stan Lee worked with the NHL to create superheroes for each hockey team in the league, and for the most part, a team's hero was just an elevated version of their mascot. All 30 heroes were featured in the 2011 All-Stars game. These heroes were meant to be more than just pictures. A CGI animated short was created to debut the hockey heroes, and there were future plans for comics and movies and a TV series. They planned for these to tap into the younger audience of hockey fans and become wildly successful. They didn't, and it was actually the opposite. They became wildly unsuccessful, and people generally hate many of the heroes. The main issue with the supers was that many of them were just existing character designs with 1 or 2 differences, and the storyline for the characters wasn't very compelling. Safe to say, these heroes will probably be staying out of the game and in the penalty box for the future. The Sleaze Brothers kicked off in 1989 and lasted 6 issues because people hated them so much. Reviewers literally compared the comic to garbage and hoped that there wouldn't be any more issues after the first. The entire thing is a spin-off from a one-off comic strip created for Doctor Who called Follow That TARDIS. The story follows a pair of brothers who grew up as orphans on an Earth far in the future that looks kind of like if you combine steampunk and 80s neon aesthetics. It's full of pollution and crime and monsters and aliens. It's very corrupt and generally unwelcoming, so that's the vibe. And the job the brothers have picked to survive this harsh landscape is private investigator. They're good at what they do, getting the right results, even if they don't always use the most morally sound methods. The jokes in it were off. Also, there was just very little working for them. The brothers were seen in the totally stonking, surprisingly educational, and utterly mind-boggling comic relief comic, and then the backup story in Image Comics' Elephant Men issue 16, and then they haven't been seen since, for good reason. Unfortunately, we are back talking about Mr. Ryan Reynolds for a different super offense, that time he played Hal Jordan in 2011's Green Lantern. People are pretty divided on whether his performance was the only good thing about the movie or just another bad addition. It's safe to say Reynolds did the best he could with what he was given, but you let us know your thoughts in the comments section. We know Ryan's thoughts on the film, if the Deadpool 2 post-credit scenes are anything to go off of. The film might have been a mess, but at least Reynolds met his future partner in crime, Blake Lively, on the set. Arabian Night is next, and this guy has gone under a more intense microscope in the past few years. We love representation. It's great when it's done well. Arabian Night might be a very powerful Muslim hero, but when he is also a visual stereotype with no real character behind him, that's not great, and that's not even coming from me. Editor Andy Schmidt said that, and I just agree. Thankfully, Marvel recognized the potential in this actually being a great hero, so they rebooted him, probably hoping we all just leave the original in the faraway depths of our minds. The original Arabian Night had a special magic carpet that would only respond to his mental commands, and his weapon was a scimitar. In the new version, that magic carpet got unraveled and made into a suit for Arabian Night that still gives him all the same powers the carpet had had. So less stereotypical and more just cool guy. If you don't already hate this next character, you should. His name is Whitewash Jones and should never have seen the light of day. The character is so awful, I can't even believe it. Jones was in The Young Allies alongside Bucky Barnes. The character was a very racially insensitive depiction and wasn't well put together. It was so bad, Marvel retconned the earlier versions of him to not be like the real guy and instead be a made-up character for propaganda purposes. When Marvel did the big retcon, they just redesigned the character and created the real Washington Wash Jones in 2009. This should have never happened in the first place, but at least Marvel realized the error of their ways. But what could be worse than Whitewash Jones? Well, spot 1 is reserved for DC's Brown Bomber. You think the name is bad? Get ready for the explanation. Brown Bomber is one of those characters that when he says a certain word, he transforms into his hero persona. Think Shazam, but in this case, he yells Black Power. Brown Bomber can't remember anything that happens between his two personas. They don't know the other persona exists. The Brown Bomber character that appears when he yells Black Power is a very strong, powerful black man. His hero outfit is basically a basketball uniform. Just guess what DC made Brown Bomber's other persona. Throw something out there. I can't actually say what the person is for fear of being demonetized, but the definition of them is a person who believes that white people constitute a superior race and should therefore dominate society. Who did this? This guy was supposed to also be the first black DC superhero. Tony Isabella literally had to create Black Lightning so that DC wouldn't release this guy at the time. But well y'all, that's it, that's all. Thanks for watching. Bye.